to try to prevent this critical
details. What are you learning?
Wolf, this is critical insight into Donald Trump. What we're learning speaks to his continued desire to delay and to try to prevent the election results from being counted. Now, we previously knew that there was a phone call that took place on January 6th between Trump and Kevin McCarthy.
So notice the statement that she made, that this is something that gives us more insight into Trump's attempts to delay the election. Now, I know he was trying to delay the election. I know what he was trying to do. However, the fact of what he was trying to do has nothing to do with the statements that this woman is making and the evidence that she's providing. Those are two separate things.
McCarthy called Trump, pleading for him to stop the rioters. I've spoken to multiple Republican members of the House who have knowledge of that call, who tell us that after Trump tried to say to Kevin, these are not my people, it's Antifa, Kevin McCarthy said to Trump, no, it's not Antifa. These are your people.
What you'll notice is that every quote that she gives you does not back up the narrative that she's presenting. She's presenting about an attempt to delay the election. Again, I know Trump was trying to delay the election. That's a separate thing. What I'm talking about is what she's presenting and the evidence that she's bringing. She's saying that Trump was trying to delay the election, but when she quotes, what she's quoting is not backing that up. What she quoted was Trump denying that it was his people and saying it's Antifa. That's a separate thing from him delaying the election, and also is a separate thing from him refusing to stop what was happening, right? Don't get distracted. Remember what the claims that she's making and listen to all these quotes. None of them are backing it up.
And here are the new details. After he said that, Trump said to McCarthy, quote, well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are. To which McCarthy responded, who the F do you think you're talking to?
So notice that this is the centerpiece of the story. She says other things and she says, quote, right? Just verbally, she says, quote, right? Other stuff, she just gives a general sentiment. She doesn't quote anything. The most damning things she says are not quoted. It's the sentiment statements. The quotes that she says verbally, not nearly as damning as what she's suggesting. But then this is the centerpiece of the whole piece. This actually has a graphic, right? You got to do a whole graphic and pause but look at what it says. Remember, her assertion is Trump refusing to stop the riots. How does this in any way confirm that Trump refused to stop the riots? Now, again, I would put good money on that he did get in the way of stopping the riots, because that's what he wanted. And see, that's the thing about being nonpartisan and being objective. Just because I believe that Trump incited the riots, I believe that he wanted it to some degree to happen, not necessarily people dying. I don't think he cares that people died, but I don't think that's necessarily what he wanted to happen. He definitely wanted some chaos. So those are my points of view. Now, the partisan view would be this news piece is supporting my beliefs. So the partisan approach would be to just be like, yeah, this is great, got him, right? And not to really interrogate. I interrogate everyone. I don't care if you agree with me. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care. I have no loyalty whatsoever to any particular group or party or anything like that. You could agree 101 things that I agree with. But if you say something and there isn't a basis behind what you're saying, you're not providing the evidence for what you're saying, I'm going to call it out. And I'm not some kind of a genius. I mean, I just don't really feel the need to be in some kind of a echo chamber. I don't need to fit in, right? These are things that I don't care about, right? I don't care if I'm the only one that thinks a certain thing. I don't need company. I am human, right? I'm still human, I'm not a robot. So it's nice to see that other people think like you or agree with you, but I don't need it, right? If this was something coming from the Trump campaign or Republicans, I would be very suspicious and I would be like, wait a minute. So why would I be different? Simply because it's saying things I agree with. Again, irrelevant that it's saying things I agree with. What she asserted versus the evidence she's provided don't match. Here's the fact of the matter. Again, what's quoted here is not Trump in any way refusing anything. Trump refusing is quoting McCarthy saying, Trump, you need to put a stop to this. Like, imagine this graphic instead of this. Think about that, by the way. The strongest thing would be proof that Trump refused to stop the violence. So if they had that, why is that not the graphic? Why would they choose this to be the graphic? All this is Trump simply saying he believes that the rioters are more concerned about the election than McCarthy is. He's not saying that they're good people. He's not saying he supports them. He's not saying, I'm not going to do anything. He's not saying, I don't think I need to do anything. He's not saying, let's wait a little bit before we do anything. And why would he? We don't see in this McCarthy saying, hey, you got to stop the violence, right? And again, why do they choose to make this the centerpiece of the whole thing? Let's play this back again and listen to the disconnect.
Who have knowledge of that call, who tell us that after Trump tried to say to Kevin, these are not my people, it's Antifa.
So all that is Trump denying who's doing it. That is not Trump refusing to do anything about it. That is not someone even asking him to do anything about it. Just to make it very clear, Trump could have looked at a camera feed and see the people storming the Capitol. He could have turned to one of his aides and said, send the National Guard right away. We've got to get these people out of here, right? And then after that, McCarthy comes in. McCarthy's like, this is ridiculous, whatever. These people are out of control. And then Trump responds and says, well, it seems they're more upset about the election than you are. This is the problem when you have a supposed quote like this with no timestamp, with no quotes about what was said to give you more context, right? That tweet could have been from after the backup arrived already to push the people out. No timestamp, not even an attempt to give time. This was approximately 2 p.m. or something. And it's not necessary. They have a partisan audience who is not going to care about this stuff. Just like on Fox News or Newsmax, when they put stuff out that supports Trump, no one's asking any questions. No one's saying, wait a minute, why would Trump do that? No, they're just going to be like, oh, great.
Wolf, this is critical insight into Donald Trump. What we're learning speaks to his continued desire to delay and to try to prevent the election results from.
So again, she frames it as this is showing how he was trying to delay the election. But yet none of the solid quotes were about him delaying anything.
Now, we previously knew that there was a phone call that took place on January 6th between Trump and Kevin McCarthy, when McCarthy called Trump, pleading for him to stop the rioters.
So notice she doesn't quote that. She simply says McCarthy called Trump, pleading with him to stop the rioters. Why is that not a quote? That is one of the most critical parts of what she's trying to say. I mean, she framed the whole thing as this is letting us know how Trump was trying to delay the election. And yet, one of the strongest things she says is not a quote, either a verbal quote or in some kind of graphic. Why is that? And no time. What was happening at the time that this call was made? No idea.
Multiple Republican members of the House who have knowledge of that call, who tell us that after Trump tried to say to Kevin, these are not my people, it's Antifa.
Additionally, if this was a phone call, who would have been able to know what was said on the call, and how would they know that? First of all, let's eliminate speakerphone. If you're not on speakerphone, you can only hear one side. So is someone in the room with Trump as Trump receives a call from McCarthy, and they assume what McCarthy's saying, even though they can't hear him? Or is someone around McCarthy when he calls Trump and they're assuming what Trump is saying. I mean, if there's no speakerphone, how do you know what both parties are saying? You can make assumptions, right? And are we reporting news based on assumptions of what the other party was saying? Was it a conference call? Were other people on the call? Like, what? How did this get out? Now, later she says McCarthy wanted people to know about the call. So perhaps that's how this got out. McCarthy sharing what he said on the call. If that's the case, why isn't he subpoenaed so he can tell us what the call was about?
To Trump, no.
And Biden is president, and he's got the DOJ. At a minimum, he can't pull the phone records to at least know the time of the call. You don't have to even get into listening to the call or anything like that. Simply locating the call record. Who called who and exactly what time? Why is this information not known and not part of the story?
These are your people.
Assertion made, this is proof of Trump delaying the election, trying to delay the election. But she's quoting Trump saying it's not his people, which is a separate point.
After he said that, Trump said to McCarthy, quote, well, Kevin, I guess these people.
I don't know, guys. Seems like more amateur hour reporting by CNN. Maybe there's something more solid here. It's just being sloppily reported. But I can only do my analysis based on the information provided. This is what they're releasing. This is what they're showing. And to anyone but a partisan, it's pretty weak. The most solid things we get from this is Trump didn't believe it was his people. McCarthy, for some reason, is comfortable cursing at the president. And Trump feels that Antifa was more upset about the election than McCarthy. Completely different story from what they're presenting it as. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.